Welcome back to my podcast, dear listeners. Last time I told you about my Chandigarh fling and the aftermath. Today, I'll tell you about Ruby's Palestinian classmate, Dia. While Ruby was studying pharmacy, the most ignored classmates in her batch were two Palestinian boys, Dia and Reza. We felt bad for them because what happened to them was so not fair. Something can suddenly happen to you when you're literally just trying to live your life. They had to study in another country, far away from home and friends and anything familiar in this foreign land. And that too, when you are so young, just on the cusp of adulthood, such a vulnerable time. Dia and Reza were very polite and sweet boys, but were largely ignored by their classmates. They might as well be invisible. Ruby felt really bad about this and made it a point to be nice to them and to be friendly. That's how we were with everybody. We would go out of our way to be nice and friendly to people. That's what we saw growing up. We saw our parents and our extended family do that. And we also did that. Like if we were playing downstairs and a friend fell and scraped her knee, I would go running up to my third floor house and get some band-aids and Dettol for them, even when I was like really little. We grew up being caring towards others. Whenever possible, Ruby would invite them over to spend some time with us. I always loved having people over and practiced my social skills whenever someone visited. I had been reading all these self-help books by writers such as Dale Carnegie, and I practiced making conversation, being friendly, and being genuinely interested and kind. In the 90s, people were very welcoming. At least at our house, I can only speak of my family. And we would offer snacks, food to our guests, and generally make them feel very welcome. I hope that with our family, these boys felt less isolated, and hopefully we could recreate the warm family feeling for them. We were in the habit of walking up the quarry every evening. It was an activity that rejuvenated the mind, body, and spirit. The exercise, the serene ambience, and the stunning sunsets made for perfect moments in time. And we would try and share this beautiful experience with our guests also. So we would take Dia and Reza up the hill too, whenever they visited. The boys had a very unique and peculiar accent that sometimes made it very difficult to understand what they were saying. I would really concentrate and pay full attention to understand what they were saying. One day, Dia had to repeat himself at least thrice when talking to my dad. He said, "Uncle, the prices of petrol are so high now." My dad, "Come again?" "Dia, the prices of petrol, uncle." "Dad, didn't catch what you said there." "Dia, petrol, uncle, petrol." With some dumb charades actions this time. "Oh, petrol, you mean petrol." "Yes, I agree." From time to time, Dia would say things that I found to be mean and off-putting. One hot summer day, when Dia visited us, I prepared nimbu sharbat, lemonade. We add some sugar and some salt to the lemon water. When I offered it to Dia, he said, "Why have you brought me salt water?" I was surprised at his rudeness and asked him if he was serious. And he said, "Yes. Why have you brought salt water?" Maybe the salt was a smidge more than what other people put in their nimbu pani, but it was a very refreshing and delicious drink. I could not believe that someone could be so rude about another person's hospitality. And multiple times, Dia called me fat. He would be teasing and laughing, of course, but it annoyed me to no end. I had worked very hard to get rid of the rounded belly that I had as a 15-year-old kid, and now I was as trim and fit as I could possibly be. I weighed 47 kilos, almost 104 pounds, at 160 centimeters or 5'3", and I had no extra flesh. And I was very proud of my achievement. Also, I knew for a fact that my figure was stunning from all the reactions and responses to my appearance, and because I have eyes. I loved my proportions, my natural shape, all the things that we have no control over even when we work on our fitness. The natural frame that you get. I was so happy that that was my look. Like the ratio of your upper body to your legs, or just how your natural waist is shaped, or the natural shape of your arms, your breasts, your collarbone, the length of your neck. I felt like I had won the genetic lottery in that respect. No wonder Hema said I could be a model. The only thing I did not like was my fat nose and the very prominent veins on my hands. It had been a hard journey for me from the days of congenital anemia and the constant fatigue that accompanied it, to the mensuration problems that could be attributed to the anemia, to my unhealthy weight gain that came purely from simple carbs, the naan khatais I used to secretly eat, to my resolve to take care of my fitness when the doctor finally prescribed iron supplements, to my mom's efforts to sabotage my resolve where she wouldn't let me work out. Then, the final conquer of the health and fitness demon. I was so proud. And here was Dia pissing all over it. And when I was so obviously slender too. I'm guessing he was kidding, but I was and had always been very sensitive. And while I did not take it seriously, I did find it very annoying the way Dia would tease me and call me very fit. See how fat you are. That said, I believe I had a very realistic perception of my as well as other people's appearance and attractiveness. This is not necessarily true considering that I ignored the advances of flirting of some really attractive people, since I was convinced that there was no way they could have found me attractive. But I believed it nevertheless. I felt like I knew where I stood in the pecking order of the attractiveness spectrum. Molly was undoubtedly the prettiest among us, with her golden brown hair, great height, and beautiful face. Her worst feature too was her nose, but even though it was a little crooked, it was not fat or big like mine. It was universally believed that Ruby was the least attractive, with Mom lamenting Ruby's skin tone not being as light as ours. To make it worse, unlike the rest of the family, Ruby tended to get smelly within hours of taking a shower. When we were in college and sharing a wardrobe to increase our options for clothes to wear to college, I remember stepping out of the shower and pulling out something to wear that Ruby had already worn and then folded and put away, and holding my breath while slipping on that outfit because the ripe body odor on the clothes was so strong. Literally nobody else in the entire extended family had a BO problem, even though they worked outdoors on the farm. It is not something we do on purpose, of course, how beautiful or unattractive we look, or how pleasant or unpleasant our natural body odor is. I just happened to be lucky in that I smelled and looked pleasant. Or Ruby just happened to be unlucky in that department. When we were in school and the teachers were selecting students for the annual day dance, Ruby had been dismissed and I had been selected. There had been no auditions. The teachers had made the students stand in a queue, and we got the impression that the selections were made on appearance. So Ruby did notice these things, and we spoke about it. But she did not let it affect her confidence or belief in herself. Ruby was slender and had a curvy figure. She was a graceful dancer, and she had a good singing voice. Academically, she was at the top of her class. Later, when Dia's mom and sister visited the country, he brought them over to meet us. They brought gifts for us, shawls and other such expensive things. We were surprised at such lavish gifts, but Ruby secretly believed that it was because she was special to Dia, and he had indicated as much to his mom. I thought that since we were the only Indians who had extended a hand of friendship and kindness to her son, she had brought us these gifts. Later, in the evening, we decided to take Dia's mom and sister up the quarry hill. It was only when we saw them struggling not even halfway up that we realized they were not in the habit of exerting themselves. Not only that, they had dressed up for the visit in stockings and delicate shoes that were completely inappropriate for physical activity. So we did not go all the way up and turned around to take them back home. One day, when Ruby and I were at Dia's place, I noticed a bunch of new books. I was so thrilled to see those books, I immediately asked if I could borrow them. Dia agreed and let me take them home. After that, Dia followed up on when I would return them, and I would just say I wasn't done with them yet, which I wasn't. I'm a very slow reader. I have some problems. So that was true, but that wasn't good behavior on my part. I was taking him for granted and being selfish. They were not my books. They were his new books. I hadn't thought of it that way at that time. Dia followed up a few more times, and then later when I actually started returning them, Dia said it was not necessary and that I should treat them as a gift from him. I was confused and tried to return the books again, saying I was done reading them and I wanted to return them. But Dia insisted that he no longer wanted them. I felt very guilty and I have those books till date. The Middle Eastern students of Kalina were a close-knit community and several of them studied at Bombay University. Through the Dia connection, some of them started speaking to me, but their vocabulary was severely limited and the communication was kind of difficult. It was looking at these gorgeous boys that I realized just how good-looking Middle Eastern boys can be. Plain old Dia couldn't hold a candle to his Bombay University counterparts. On the attractiveness scale, let's say, dear Dia was neither here nor there. But the Middle Eastern university boys, that was another story altogether. One boy in particular, Sami, was absolutely dazzling with his gold-flecked green eyes, absolutely captivating me. He had the Greek god-like aura and was simply beyond stunning. He made it a point to come into the psychology building every day before my class, and he would gaze into my eyes and smile, and we communicated the best we could. He made it very clear that he was interested in me, and I would just melt when I looked into his eyes, my face giving away everything I was feeling. I literally have the most transparent face in the world. The next time Dia was at our place, I told him about this guy, Sami, and Dia seemed horrified on hearing this. He insisted that Sami was not a good person and that I should keep my distance. I had no reason not to believe Dia, so I took that seriously and stopped seeing Sami. The next time he came into the psychology building, cooing at me while his buddies stood some distance away, as was their daily practice, I told him it was time for me to go into class. As usual, he tried to get me to stay a little while longer and chat with him. Supriya, my friend, urged me to come into class. I told him a little too sternly that I needed to go. And maybe I even asked him not to bother me. Can't remember for sure. Sami's face fell. I guess he got the hint because he was never seen in the psychology building again. If not for Dia, I was certainly melting into the dreamy eyes of this gorgeous male specimen. And I would have taken this romance forward, being putty in his hands. I remember feeling grateful to Dia for saving me from falling into the clutches of a bad guy whose intentions were just to exploit me. One day Ruby and I were visiting Dia and Reza. We were chatting and enjoying each other's company. I found it funny when Dia showed me some simple stretches that he claimed were exercises. At that time, I felt something was only an exercise if it made you feel breathless and super exerted. So then, Dia sat on the ground with his legs extended in front of him and insisted that pointing and retracting his toes was actually exercise, and I laughed some more. After that, I noticed him look at Reza. Reza told Ruby he had something to show her inside, and they went into another room. Dia asked me to come out for a bike ride. I was not really interested and declined. Dia asked again, insisting that it was just 5 minutes. I again declined because Ruby and Reza were right here in the next room, so why would I go out? Why would we leave them and just the two of us go out? Didn't make any sense to me. Dia kept asking and insisting that it wouldn't take more than 5 minutes. I finally relented because I can only assert that much, and if somebody persists, I just give up and give in. I just wanted to go and come back fast, and I was really irritated and annoyed. Dia and I stepped out, and of course it was past 5 minutes. I reminded him that he had told me we would be back in 5 minutes. Just a little while more, he kept insisting. I was getting more and more annoyed. I absolutely hated when someone deceives me, and I instantly begin to feel negative towards the person when there's such behavior. I was feeling angry and resentful. What on earth did Dia think he was doing? Why was he pulling this stunt? He finally pulled up at a scenic hill and stopped there. Thank God, I was so annoyed. Plus, I was also worried and anxious because I was thinking about how Ruby would scold me for just going away somewhere without telling her. I was really non-confrontational and was very compliant and cooperative, just wanting to be on the right side of all authority figures. And after Mom, Ruby was very much an authority figure for me. We're on this hill, and Dia is trying to make conversation about how beautiful the hill was, but I was in no mood for conversation. Dia had lied to me, he had misled me, and now was expecting me to be friendly. Why couldn't the four of us have come here together? Then we could have all enjoyed ourselves and been relaxed and could have super long conversations. Right now, I was just experiencing a lot of anxiety and just wanted to get back to Ruby. Next thing I know, Dia was kneeling in front of me and proposing. Dia said that he was in love with me. I was shocked. This had come out of nowhere. This person had literally been criticizing and making fun of me most of the time. I barely felt he even liked me. I was certainly always hurt and confused when he would make fun of me. And here he was proposing to me. I just got angry and asked what he was doing. Now, this proposal that I mean is what we used to say propose to make somebody your girlfriend, not like an engagement proposal. We used to say propose at that time. So here Dia was proposing to me. I just got angry and asked what he was doing. Dia said he had been in love with me for some time. I angrily told Dia that I just wanted to go back to his place and that Ruby would be wondering where we were and what we were doing. Dia tried to talk, but I was just so annoyed I told him I wanted to leave. We went back, and just as I expected, Ruby was pissed. And I was nervous. Ruby angrily demanded where I had disappeared. I told her that I didn't want to go, but Dia insisted. She scolded me. I just kept nervously telling her that Dia had insisted we go for a bike ride. Ruby said that was so ridiculous. We left that day and I was not interested in interacting with Dia anymore. I felt it was insidious how he had influenced me to keep my distance from the university guy that I was really into, Sami. Not just that, Dia's behavior till that point had been one of someone who was trying to push me away, not someone who was trying to endear himself to me. If he genuinely was attracted to me or was falling in love with me, why didn't he actually do something that was aimed at making me feel positive towards him? This didn't make any sense. Dia drifted out of my consciousness, and I never gave him much thought afterwards. Only when I heard of more violence in his country, I wanted to know if he was alive and well. But I did not even know his surname. How could I find out anything? That was the time before the internet was widely used. It was the time before mobile phones, Facebook, or any other social media. Recently, Ruby and I were talking, and the topic of Dia came up. Ruby started laughing and saying something when I remembered the day he had proposed to me. I interrupted her and blurted out, "Oh my God, remember the day he proposed to me?" And only too late I realized that I had interrupted Ruby in the middle of a sentence. She had been in the process of implying that she knew Dia had a secret crush on her and that the special and expensive gifts that his mother and sister had brought meant that they were already thinking of her as a daughter-in-law. I should have just shut my mouth then. Instead, I had already blurted out the truth. Ruby was surprised and asked me why I hadn't told her this before. I said I thought she knew and reminded her of the day we visited Dia and Reza's place and we had vanished for a while and how she had scolded me when we had come back. She did not remember that day. Afterwards, I thought of Dia very often and kept hoping he was well and thriving. I hoped Dia's family was safe, but I had no way of knowing or finding out. I do hope they are all doing well considering what they've been through. And that was the end of the Dia chapter. Next time, I'll tell you about other potential romances. Till then, stay happy, stay healthy. Bye for now.